Welcome to the episode 2 of Inspire Talks Diaspora series, Bridging Local Grit with Global Wit. यो सिरिजमा हामी नेपालभन्दा बाहिर बस्नुभएको, बाहिर बसेर फर्किनु भएको नेपाली टेक और आइटी पाइनियर्सहरूसँग कुरा गर्छौं to inspire, educate and elevate नेपाली market to the world stage. आजको हाम्रो गेस्ट हुनुहुन्छ ऋषभ कर्ण सर. He's the head of engineering at Inspiring Lab. He was one of the earliest SAP Hybris code trainers. He's also helped found a medical tech company, and he has worked as a tech and architect consultant in numerous enterprises in various industries. Rishabh Dai, welcome to the series. Thank you so much for coming. How are you doing?
Thank you, Sukirti, for the generous introduction. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good as well. So Rishabh Dai, हाम्रो podcast अब सिरिज सुरु गर्दाखेरि you spent almost 10 years बाहिर काम गर्नुभयो, पढ्नु पनि भयो, आफ्नो undergraduate बाहिरै spend गर्नुभएको थियो. अनि बाहिर काम गर्दा हजुरको पर्सनल एक्सपिरियन्सेस शेयर गरिदिनुहोस् न. ओभरअलमा हजुरले नेपालको एजुकेसनल र वर्क इन्भाइरोमेन्टमा के चेन्जहरू देख्नुभयो अनि ओभरअल एक्सपिरियन्सेसहरू कस्तो थियो त हजुरको?
Yeah, where to start? There's differences say only body नै थियो हैन. I'd say like one major thing for me was मैले चाहिँ स्टुडेन्ट हुँदैखेरि देखि नै चाहिँ रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट्सहरूमा पार्टिसिपेट गर्ने अपर्च्युनिटी पाएको थिएँ. I was a part of a research group called Kirex and Quark, जहाँ चाहिँ हामीहरूले चाहिँ knowledge engineering र knowledge management related research topicsहरूमा काम गर्थ्यौँ. अनि so also one thing that was different, like the thing that stood out for me the most was that काम चाहिँ धेरै जस्तो काम चाहिँ like pioneering research अनि like not just about let's say in comparison like bricklayers-हरूले गर्ने भन्दा पनि more architectural or more foundational कुराहरूमा research गर्न पाइरहेको हुन्थ्यो. अनि so state of the art technology मा or like even some of the topics जुनमा हामीले research गरेका थियौँ जुन त्यसको चाहिँ अझैसम्म पनि we don't know if in the next 5-10 years there will be products from that line of work, but we have already done the work, research for that. त्यस्तो खालको चाहिँ बढी भइरहेको हुन्थ्यो. अनि so that is an area where we are still playing catch up in Nepal. हामी चाहिँ research oriented काम भन्दा पनि engineering oriented काम बढी गरिरहेको हुन्छौँ नेपालमा चाहिँ.
ओके, रिसर्चकै अनि एजुकेसनकै कुरामा प्रिफेस गर्दाखेरि जर्मनीमा हुँदा यु पब्लिस्ड युनाइटेड एक्सेस आर्किटेक्चर फर लार्ज स्केल साइन्टिफिक डेटा सेट्स भन्ने रिसर्च विथ हार्वर्ड. अनि स्पेसिफिकल्ली रिसर्च इन्भाइरोमेन्ट कस्तो थियो यसलाई अलिक एक्सप्यान्ड गरेर भनिदिनुहोस् न. अनि यो आइडियाको बारेमा पनि ब्रिफली के एक्सप्लेन गरिदिन्छु न.
The title is Unified Access Architecture for Large Scale Scientific Data Sets. It's a mouthful, but what it basically means is एकदमै धेरै diverse big data tools-हरु भए पनि त्यो डेटाहरु चाहिँ हामीले अब and actually डेटाको फर्म शेप मोडालिटीहरु सबै डिफरेन्ट भए पनि सबैलाई चाहिँ एउटा युनिफाइड वेमा more specifically from a single language हामीले चाहिँ access कसरी गर्ने अनि how to basically process that data say in your SQL pipeline or in your data pipeline पनि त्यो चाहिँ एकदमै एक्टिभ एरिया अफ रिसर्च थियो त्यो बेला. बिग डेटा चाहिँ त्यो बेलाको हट टपिक थियो, अहिले एआईमा जस्तै like 15 years ago. अनि so another thing was that knowledge graphहरू भर्खरै आएका थिए अनि डेटाको semantification, like annotating what means what, the meaning behind the data, that part was being actively worked on. So म चाहिँ actually I approached this from, like I said, I was in the knowledge engineering related research group. So I came at it from a knowledge engineering and semantics and ontology perspective, more philosophical inclination. And so मेरो goal चाहिँ it was basically to say prove that yes, one size fits all भन्ने खालको paradigmमा जान सकिन्छ. Multimodal databases can actually scale and be proven in production. अनि so त्यो बेलासम्म Apache Ignite or Cosmos DB टाइपको multimodal databasesहरु थिएन. अनि सो उनीहरूलाई अझै मल्टिमोडल क्वेरिजहरू चाहिँ एकै ठाउँबाट गर्न मिल्ने त्यो बेलासम्म चाहिँ प्रायर आर्ट थिएन अनि सो दिस पर्टिकुलर रिसर्च वर्क वाज इन अ वे फाउन्डेसनल वर्क जसमा चाहिँ जसपछि चाहिँ राष्ट्र डेटा म्यानेजमेन्ट सिस्टमले चाहिँ like because of this work, it was able to expand its featured offerings that get a European Space Agency, NASA, and other space agencies and geological research organizations were able to basically streamline their research work and सो पहिला चाहिँ एउटै कुरा गर्नको लागि 10-15वटा टुल्सहरू युज गरेर त्यसलाई कन्सोलिडेट गर्ने एउटा सेपरेट वर्कफ्लो थियो एन्ड नाउ इट कुड अल जस्ट बी डन थ्रु one place, one paradigm using good old SQL that everybody knows and loves. So to put it simply, this was like giving superpowers to SQL using user-defined functions. So this also was a precursor to a lot of things that came later in Postgres development. Postgres is a very popularly used database, by the way. So I was working on the database itself, not developing with the database, but developing the database itself.
Interesting. अनि ऋषभ दाई हजुरले स्विजरल्यान्डमा फिनल्यान्डमा अल टुगेदर नेपालभन्दा बाहिर अलमोस्ट 10 years स्पेन्ड गर्नुभयो अनि वी कुड से द्याट यु स्पेन्ड अ डिसेन्ट अमाउन्ट अफ टाइम वर्किङ इन नेपाल पनि अनि पर्टिकुलरली काम गर्नेको सन्दर्भमा फरेन मार्केट्समा कस्तो स्केलको प्रोजेक्ट्सहरूमा काम गर्नुभयो अनि नेपालमा कस्तो स्केलको प्रोजेक्ट्समा काम गर्दै हुनुहुन्छ फरेन मार्केट्सको प्रोजेक्ट्सहरू नेपालमा गर्न सकिन्छ कि सकिँदैन त्यसको बारेमा केही भनिदिनु न व्हाट्स योर ओपिनियन अन दिस
So I was lucky to have worked on different scales and especially on the larger side of the spectrum, you know. So one of my earliest project was an EU FP7 funded project जसमा चाहिँ European Union को त्यो बेलाको मल्टिमिडिया स्ट्रिमिङ रिलेटेड एउटा एक्टिभ रिसर्च थियो बनफायर भन्ने अनि त्यसमा चाहिँ आई वाज ट्राइङ टु check the limits of like scaling up video processing pipelines. And so right now, for example, YouTube works at a mega scale, civilization scale, right? And so this is again around 14-15 years ago. So we did not have like large scale video processing pipelines like we have now, and there were very few companies, and so this must say so this was one of my earliest projects, my first job actually, and we were just testing the limits of what can be done in real time, what are the things that needs to be put in a batch, and then earlier we started like non-real time but still just in time पाउन सक्ने features के होला, or like also for example consumer grade apps like multimedia related features integrate गर्नको लागि चाहिँ we were creating different SDKs so that we would hide all the complexity of the cloud and the backend infrastructure, and people could just simply use our SDK and rapidly develop like advanced features, especially related to video or multimedia. Another project that I fondly remember is this was right after my graduation. I had a research position in Fraunhofer Mavis. They are they're the largest medical visualization company actually. And so उनीहरूसँग चाहिँ एकदमै लार्ज डेटा सेट थियो क्यान्सर र अरू एमआरआई रिलेटेड डेटाहरूको होइन. अनि सो मेरो थेसिसकै लर्निङ्सहरू युज गरेर आई हेड प्रपोज द्याट I would create yet another unified access architecture for that. And so the idea was to have a consolidated database for medical images. The semantic side पनि र त्यो data side पनि दुइटै अनि so that artificial intelligence pipelines, machine learning can be done on top of that. So some of my friends who were into machine learning were using what I had developed. So I personally never really got into core machine learning myself, but I also always, uh, one way or the other, ended up doing work that was foundational and necessary for AI to be built on top of it. So other than that, um, त्यसपछि चाहिँ the scale kept getting bigger. So I became, I entered into the e-commerce world actually. So SAP Hybris was the best in the market back then, and it was a newcomer, but it had blown past the competition. And it was the de facto platform for larger scale e-commerce web shops, and also the supply chain and fulfillment infrastructure behind e-commerce websites. So mm, with that, I was training other corporate developers and about the best practices of how to use the framework, how to scale up our websites, and but also at the same time, I was gaining insights about, oh, this thing is really expensive, 100,000 euros per developer per year. How can I make this cheap and utilize this same kind of thing in a resource constrained environment like Nepal? So back when we did not have the Raj in Nepal, but I was still thinking like, how can we have a larger scale e-commerce ecosystem in Nepal? And it would definitely not use something like SAP Hybris because it's too expensive, right? And so because of that, I did have a side project and side research going on about cost reduction and that. And later on, I shifted yet again to the cruise ship industry. There was a company called X Control, which initially offered me to just visit them and see what they do, and what they did was really impressive for me, and I decided to go into that hospitality related industry. They were building digital experience platforms for pretty much all the cruise ship companies in the world, and so it was a different kind of a scaling story. So before, you would have one system that basically is civilization scale. The whole planet is using it. And that was how I was thinking of scaling. But with cruise ships, it was like, हरेक cruise ship मा चाहिँ आफ्नै deployments छ, and they don't always talk to each other. They might just be solitary island, or like a town of its own. And there, it was not just the scale of how many users you have, but also the scale of what kind of features you have, what kind of software you're building. So on a cruise ship, you might have like a restaurant software, but also a casino related software, or like for theater management, or like different booking systems. But also things like if the ship is about to sink, or God forbid some emergency happens, then the captain has to make an announcement, and all the screens on board the cruise ship has to be in the control of the captain. The captain's face has to come. Whatever you were watching before is gone. Now it's the captain making the announcement. So there were situations where the system would have to just take over pretty much every device on board, and then follow the marine protocols, right? So this was very closely related to like IoT and close to hardware kind of software features, but also general purpose software. And so most of the different kinds of software that we have in a given country like Nepal, it also exists on board a cruise ship, but it has to be built rapidly and evolve rapidly. So after that, I basically felt like I have seen different kinds of software at different kinds of scale, and I wanted to be more like a hermit and do my own research. And I had very specific ideas about what I want to work on after that. And so I came to Nepal, and COVID was happening. And there was yet another opportunity for a large scale research. So there were around 40 different research groups from around the world who formed this COVID international consortium of researchers. And Nepal was one of them. And my friend Manish and I had started this along with NAMI and other organizations in Nepal. And there also we did some research and larger scale collaboration actually with Microsoft Research Asia and White House Office of Science and Technology. And we were able to create simulations and prediction models. So after that, I continued working with other Nepali developers and companies and stayed in Nepal.
Rishabh, you said you've worked streaming platforms को लागि भनेर अनि त्यसपछि e-commerce को लागि भनेर अनि यस्तै स्केलको प्रोजेक्ट्सहरू नेपालमा गर्न possible छ कि छैन or like can you elaborate on that? Would it be possible for we to do something यस्तो स्केलमा नेपालमा?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a nuance to that. When it comes to capability of our developers and the quality of developers we definitely have high-skilled developers and really great teams in Nepal. So capacity-wise, we have the potential to do that. And the blocker is mostly the economics around it, and financing is the thing to overcome actually. So in some cases, we have seen that Nepal has created planet scale software as well. So and there are even say in one of my former companies, there were some games from Nepali developers which had crossed 100 million or 50 million downloads, and so we have validation and verification that at-scale software can be done by Nepali developers too, and that it works. And so, for example, there are companies which do large-scale financial transactions, and they are based in Nepal. Also, they have offices in the Silicon Valley and other places, but these are Nepali developers working at that scale. But those are usually the exception, not the norm. So most of the time, because of the resource constraints and because of funding constraints as well, Nepali developers get to experience business process outsourcing related work more often than product development or original research related work. And so one of my mentors, Bal Dai, from Tamil.com fame, he one day I had asked him, like, everybody and their cousin seems to be doing business process outsourcing related work in Nepal. And you are such a great innovative business person who has built so many different, he's a serial business entrepreneur. And so I was asking why was he involved in that too? It seems like a not that exciting business model. And his response was, and he was very patient. His response was that, you see, we have this company. He was talking about the company that he was spearheading, where we do get projects from outside, and it helps our developers learn and grow. And of course, we will also be making our own things and our own products and our own research. But how do you build the ecosystem needed for that? You still have to have a substrate which is financially sustainable. So BPO may sound like it's constraining our developers and it's not giving them enough opportunities. But actually, if you think about it, it's the fuel and it's what sustains most of our companies. And the money that we get from there, but also the ecosystem that we build out of all this can actually help build original products, original research, and innovations within our country.
Nice. That's a great way to look at things instead of the pessimistic angle. But oh, Nepalma, we're just producing things, we're not creating things. Ko angle still exists. Gorcha that instead of looking at it like that optimistic point of view that you said, कि हामी अहिले ecosystem building stage मा छौँ, त्यो ecosystem like well built भएपछि maybe there will be flexibility in the resource constraints that Nepal is facing right now for us to create something beautiful. Ani larger and create something एकदमै innovative than just be producing something that that other companies have directed us to produce. Ani research that Risav दाई टेक र आइटी एकदमै कन्स्टेन्टली इभल्भिङ इन्डस्ट्री पनि भयो अनि कुनै पनि नयाँ चेन्ज आउँदाखेरि बिएट प्रोग्रामिङ ल्याङ्ग्वेजमा होस् कुनै सफ्टवेयरमा होस् अरू कुनै अरू टेक स्ट्याकको अरू कुनै कुराहरूमा होस् I'm assuming global marketsले त्यस्तो चेन्जेसहरूलाई अर्ली इन्टिग्रेट गर्छ, अर्ली नै इम्ब्रेस गर्छ आफ्नो वर्कमा. अनि how does that pace of adopting new change differ between global market and the Nepali market? Or नेपाली मार्केटले क्याचअप गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ कि नेपाली मार्केटमा फुल्ली इन्टिग्रेट हुन्छ, लाइक त्यो टाइमली नै इन्टिग्रेट हुन्छ कि, यसको बारेमा पनि केही भनिदिनु न.
So यसमा पनि I have seen a few different patterns. So some companies work very closely with other companies abroad and other teams abroad. And so there's a lot of this cross-pollination of ideas already happening. So यताको ideas, उताको ideas, यता आइरहन्छ, and there's constant knowledge transfer and tech transfer happening in some segments of our industry. And some companies who say create their own products and are a bit more isolated and solitary, they are often lagging behind. And I have worked with both kinds of companies well in Nepal. And so I do see like conservatism actually in technology itself. There are some CEOs who are very proud of remaining traditional, remaining like, oh, this is how things have always worked. And we have remained on that stack and it works for us. So if it is not broken, don't change it. Don't try to fix it, which works in some industries. It's actually the accumulated wisdom in that particular business vertical. But it doesn't work for everything else. And so especially when it comes to like software that was written 20, 25 years ago, and that is used in a lot of places, I see this inertia and friction that it just doesn't want to change. Like they might just need to abandon it at some point because there's so much like glaring security issues by now because of lack of updates or lack of transition to better practices. So, but at the same time, this other side of it, where the cross-pollination and is happening, where tech transfer is happening, I can see that Nepali developers are at par with everybody else. Yeah. So I do see that tools and frameworks are adopted quite fast, quick enough actually. अरूभन्दा हामी त्यति पछाडि हुँदैनौँ. If something is proven, something is new and shiny, we still might adopt it quickly. तर say the architectural practices or the thinking related, so paradigm related things, they come a bit later because thought leadership को चाहिँ अलिकति कमी छ नेपालमा चाहिँ. So some of the best developers I know and senior architects, they are not that actively participating in the online discussions, or like we don't have like a healthy culture of having conferences and developer meetups. Like there are very few, and you do not have senior developers actively participating in that. I mostly see the young population there, which is also nice. But because of I would say there's just this general gap in technical thought leadership. So paradigm shiftsहरू चाहिँ नेपाल आइसक्नको लागि त टाइम लाग्छ, तर न्यू साइनी टुल्सहरू युज गर्नमा चाहिँ हामी त्यति पछाडि चाहिँ पर्दैनौँ.
Okay. So you're saying Nepali developers are up par with skills wise, global talents up par son, and we use the same technology that they use that with respect to like thought leadership and innovation and creation केही कुरा फेरि त्यही कुरामा आएर जोडिन्छ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई, that we are lacking त्यो aspectबाट चाहिँ we are lacking and not so much in the skills and technology side, but is that what you're saying?
Yeah, precisely.
Okay. So रिसभदाई कन्क्लुड गर्दै जाँदाखेरि टेल अस अ फ्यु थिङ्स हजुरले बाहिर बसेर काम गर्दाखेरि सिक्नुभयो द्याट यु एक्टिभली इम्प्लिमेन्ट टुडे एज हेड अफ इन्जिनियरिङ इन इन्सपायरिङ ल्याब.
So, yeah, yeah. My title is head of engineering, and that uh, it does have this annotation that I am connotation that I am thinking more like an engineer, but that was not how I always perceived my role. Like any kind of technical leadership related role, must say, if you only have an engineering mindset, then it's going to be difficult, you know. So um, a big part of the challenge is not in how best you can communicate with your machines. It's in how best you can communicate with your team and customers and the people around you. And so initially, those things just sounded like soft skills. And I was not really very focused on that part. I was focused on, oh, I'm doing the technical part, hard engineering part, and talking bits and qubits and but like as I went through different phases in my career, the accumulated wisdom there was that the difficult part is the social sphere around technology, and so uh, three things stood out for me the most. One was um, first principles thinking. So you might need to question what is there, why things that have always been there might need to be questioned, but you would be able to question them by this strategic first principles thinking, and instead of just following the crowd wisdom. Second thing was big picture thinking. So this is where the social sphere part of the technology comes in. So if you're solving a social problem, social, then just the technological solution is not enough. So the technological solution has to work hand in hand with the chaos and the realities of the real life. So a lot of times I used to see where with outsourced work while in Germany, I would see that the developers and say in India would have just fulfilled the basic requirements that they were given, and they checked some boxes and sipped it. And later on, somebody would have to still rework on that and make it better, scalable, more sustainable to use. And so that was one way to do things. It works for some companies, some sectors, but here at Inspiring Lab, we have um, product first thinking, and we think of the customer, why they want the feature, what is the end result that they're looking for. So just by fulfilling some checklist of requirements, we are not going to be happy. We want the customer to actually get what they wanted from that feature. Sometimes we might even question why we need that feature at all if it doesn't move anything. So we have this approach where we are not just solving the technical aspect of something, we are actually solving real life problems that moves business metrics, some KPIs and OKRs for the customer and has an actual impact. So there, the big picture thinking part is very important. And lastly, there's this thing called Conway's Law in software development. And it's quite interesting, and I did not really believe in it in the beginning. What it says is if a team produces some software, the internal communication structures, behavior of that team actually gets reflected in the software. So if you want to produce better software, you have to clean up house and have a better team and a better workflow and better internal communication structures within your team, because that's going to reflect in your software. And we also had a good example of this within Inspiring Lab. Initially, we built a system called Daily Sync AI, and we built it just for ourselves. It came out of the pain that we were facing, and it solved some real problems for us. But it was basically modeled around our own communication structures, our own problems, and our own organizational behavioral patterns. And because we were organized as a team, because we really worked hard on how the team works, how uh, team organization is done within the company, it became a product that other people also love. And so, mm, but at the same time, the reverse could have happened. You know, if we did not have all the best practices and our team was not that coordinated, our software would also reflect that. So those three things stand out for me when I think of the last 15, 16 years development.
So Rishabh bhai, if what advice would you give to someone who want to be in the position that you are in, particularly Banda, if they want to provide technical leadership, what should they be doing? What advice do you give to them?
So uh, yeah, I think the previous question answer also covers a lot of this, specifically the big picture thinking, um, not just focusing on the technological side of things, and also first principles thinking, being able to question what has always been done a particular way. Maybe now it's the time to rethink that. Um, but specifically when it comes to advice for somebody new to this, especially new to technical leadership, um, I would say like understanding how the technological landscape is changing right now, how AI is basically rapidly transforming the whole landscape. That is quite important. And so most of the discussions around AI are very polarizing. AI is either the best thing since sliced bread, or it's horrible and it's going to just be bad for everybody. But it's actually more nuanced and uh, like, so as a YouTuber or as a blogger, it might not be the best thing for your viewership to just be giving nuanced um, opinions, and it's usually better to choose a side for engagement. And that's why uh, discussions are very polarized, and people um, either are too gung-ho about like rapid adoption of AI into everything, or they are just like completely opposed to it. But as with all the other technologies before it, if they can actually see technologies for what they actually are, the good and the bad, and surgically place, say, AI and other new technologies in their stack, then that would be uh, a much better decision than just flipping to one or zero binary thinking of adopt it or don't adopt it. There can be a middle ground, and not just with adoption of AI, but with a lot of things. Yeah, in computer science, we do think in binary logic, and Boolean logic is like one of the foundational things, but that's not how we have to also do our day-to-day thinking. So some nuanced perspective and some actual original thinking, like not just because you saw somebody write about it or blog about it, but from your own
Lived.
learned lesson, lived experience. You have to come up to your own conclusions instead of just following the crowd. And that's really needed in technical leadership nowadays because I see most leaders who are very vocal online are just actually they are not really leading, they are following. And so sometimes that's good, but at the end of the day, you do need the leader to actually lead and to come to their own thoughts and decisions instead of just following the crowd. And that would be very important for somebody new to this field. Don't just follow the hype.
I notice you say this a lot, emphasized first principle thinking. Even in your research projects, you emphasized how you worked on the foundations of knowledge and ontology.
Yes, so it's also a part of my ongoing research that I do on the side, and some of it also, of course, is utilized within Inspiring Lab projects. Um, is around that, it's specifically um, knowledge engineering at scale. Uh, these days, it translates into can different agents talk to each other using the same knowledge representation, which is uh, yet another example of applying first principles thinking and thinking about just communication structures, like with the Conway's law thing we talked about, right? So, yeah, this is very close to my heart, but I also think it should be like a higher order priority for technical leadership in general. Uh, I also inherited this kind of thinking pattern from my mentors and seniors who were doing pretty much the same, and they were successful and well respected within their fields because they did that. And that really makes a big difference in this day and age.
Okay, I think we've come to the end of our discussion conversation today. And thank you so much for joining us for episode 2 of Inspiring Talks Diaspora series. Thank you so much, Risav Dai, for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting and for your thoughtful, insightful questions. You keep it up. And I'm looking forward to seeing the other guests in this series.
Thank you.